greetings. Adjust this just a little bit. It looks a little bit, I don't know, for my own there. All right. Welcome back to another female Reverence Sunday. We're doing the afternoon today. Hopefully, a bit more people will be able to join. And also, the times will be a little different depending on what's going on. And as you can see, I'm in a different space again. And this is where I will be for a while. So hopefully I can get some nice, good background and all that fun stuff. But again, greetings and thank you for being here. Today, for this Female Reverence Sunday, will be about kind of generalness, the modern day female, the modern day sea star that is influential, uplifting, powerful, and we can say that one of those women recently won a Nobel Peace Prize. All right, these are subtle ways, not subtle ways, but big ways that we are seeing the changes in how females are seen and revered. So we have an actual ongoing reverence to female happening as I'm speaking when it comes to her specifically. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of news around her, so I don't want to go into great detail around that because you can find that on your own research and that type of thing. But also, I wanted to kind of recognize the everyday, so to speak, great mother or female in our world today. Because if you think about it, a lot of caregiving careers, from teaching to nursing to therapy, including massage therapy and things like that, are often dominated by females. And so not only do you see that their careers are around, for some reason, I don't see any comments, so it might be, just letting you all know, if you can hear me, and it looks like you can, that I'm doing this off of my phone internet, so if it's, things might be a little different. Welcome to, yeah, I don't see the live chat. So if somebody does make a post, I'll let you know if I can see it. Hopefully I can see it. Anyhow, the caregiving, awesome. Soulmates, thank you. Awesome, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, great. So we see that not only in the careers or in the lifestyles that people have chosen, this is their job, and it's not often revered. It's looked at as like, well, that's your job and this is what you do on a regular basis. But that in itself, when you are a caregiver or you're somebody who's in that field, you are being paid to caregive, but then once you leave that specific field, you are continuing to caregive. And I'm also talking about people with doctorates. This can range from, I want to mention a friend, basically, like from veterinary to doctors. Hi, speaking of. And how even for ourselves, we're like, this is what we do this on a regular basis. And I think the way that society has kind of conditioned females, we almost don't see what we're doing as a big deal. And I think it really is a big deal. As somebody who's practiced in the medical field, so to speak, because massage is considered the medical field, the amount of energy and time, and then what you do in your mind around your career to make sure that your career is going well and working well, and then when you come home, or your say regular life, non-working life, you are also doing the same thing. So I want to give reverence to ourselves, reverence to you if that's what you're doing, because wow. And then also, many of us are mothers. So it's a constant um, deciding and planning and being there in a way for others that does benefit us but isn't specifically for us, that also just brings out and kind of uplifts the world in simple ways, but I think it's a big deal. Okay, thanks for sharing that. All right, so with today's, I wanted to go into that, but also I wanted to specifically go into kind of where we're going this month, which is, this is the month of All Hallows Eve, also known as Halloween, and there is a lot of celebration and recognition of peoples and this kind of what we call witchy time of year. So I also want to talk a little bit about witches and witchcraft, and then also I'm going to go into some goddesses, okay? So a little bit, or yeah, specifically one goddess, but goddesses. So when it comes to the word witch, we've heard a lot of different kind of descriptions around that word. So we've heard it's a wise woman. It goes back to magic, worker of charms, somebody who can create what I consider, people say it's magic, but what I consider basically elemental gifts where you can work with the elements. And this will link back to one of the goddesses. And then I also, in my last live video, said I wanted to talk about snakes and going into kind of a defense of them, but also a recognition around them, because a lot of the deities, including the word witch and the specific goddess I'm going to talk about today, snakes, serpents, are always linked to them. So also the word hag used to mean, basically would link to serpents or snakes. So we can see how also when it comes to, because I personally, it I still, yeah, I see certain stories, I'll see movies or hear videos, and people will talk about the snake in the grass, or someone's being a snake. Snakes in nature, and also talking about nature doesn't do that. Nature isn't like, I'm going to be sneaky and do something terrible. Like, nature doesn't do that. Humans do that. And then humans apply their behavior to animals. And that's, I can understand how that can happen, but snakes in general are low to the ground. They're very quiet, and they depend on the earth to survive. So they are not what we have been taught they are. There are only a few poisonous or viperous snakes in the world, and even still, they rarely cause harm in the way that people describe. If anything, they might harm some livestock, but that's also given a certain situation around that. But in general, snakes are literally some of the most unaggressive, passive animals well, they're not an animal. They're an animal. You know what I'm saying. In the animal kingdom, creature on this planet. So the link to females and serpents and snakes, can you see kind of the um, backwardsness, or this is where we continue seeing how our information, Great Mother's information, gets taken, usurped, or manipulated, and oftentimes demonized. So I want to revere the snake, or want to revere nature and nature in general. So around the females in nature, so before I get into the witch and witchcraft, because it all kind of connects, is to talk about nature. And a friendly reminder that nature depends on the female for survival. So we'll hear stories around like the stud of horses, the stallion, or the lion of the jungle, when in all of those situations, and in every single situation, I have done a lot of research around this. There might be I don't think I have not found a group of animals that depend on the male for survival. They all depend on the females for survival, and they depend on the female that has been basically revered, put in a position of knowing and decision to choose the stud horse. And then that horse is under the decision of the lead mare. And this is where the word nightmare comes from. Mare, right? Again, the importance of the female in the species. Then we have birds. I've observed the turkeys. They're not just like, hey, he's dancing real pretty. No, it's very selective, and there's a female in charge of even the other females. Then we have, as I mentioned, the horses. Then we have birds. I mentioned birds. Okay, so another group I wanted to mention. Oh, deer. Well, also deer, the female chooses the stud, and what's unique about deer is oftentimes that stud, as long as they are alive for a long time, will be the lead stud chosen by the females. And there's not a bunch of studs, there's only one. And then we get into the insects, specifically spiders, where the males either are unalived after mating, or unalive themselves after mating, or are just basically shunned. They're not needed. So it's not to dismiss the male species completely. It is just to point out that the importance relies on the female. And you can see this from trees to bees to snakes. Okay, it's across the board. So the reason why I bring up nature, because to me, nature is feminine. Nature is the original female. She is the original creator of all the other things that we see, including us on this planet. So, of course, there is reverence for the Great Mother Earth, and there is reverence for the female species that have been decided here on this earth that we walk on. And I'm hoping, I'd like to see more of us in those positions, actually, and recognizing, even for ourselves, those positions, how important our deciding, our decision making, including like what I talked about around career and caregiving, how actually important it is, and in that, revere it, uplift it, and make it a reminder of every day how important the female is. Okay, now to get into the witch. So a little bit of this is going to be based out of the awesome book that I just am obsessed with. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. Okay, and it's just incredible, the information and what information continues to flow to us through the many platforms of information that we have. Okay, so again, the witch and the witchy month and witchcraft. Okay, so there are many other words for witches, such as incantrix, lamia, saga, maga. Isn't that funny? Do they even know? Anyhow, malfica, sortiliga, strix, beneficia. In Italy, a witch was a straga or janara. Is that where January comes from? Oh, and Jana. And the old title of a priestess of Jana or Juno. And I do have an older video where I talk about Juno and the link actually back to the female. Okay. English writers called witches both hags, I mentioned that already, and fairies. Words which words which were once synonymous. Witches had metaphoric titles, baculera, stick rider, fancintrix, one with the evil eye, herbaria, one who gathers herbs, strix, screech owl, which is also given to Lilith, right? Lilith, one of Lilith's many names, is the screech owl. Okay, try to get this a little better in view here, so that, there we go, that's better. Okay, and Pixidria, keeper of an ointment box. Interesting. Okay. I just learned so much each time I read this book. And I link it to other things because I feel like Pixidria would have been another name for maybe a pharmacy. Okay. Then we have female saga, wise woman, Lamia, night monster, incantor, worker of charms, magus, a wise woman, solitaire, Mueller, a seeress, beneficia, a poisoner, maleitria, evildoer. So you can see also how we also got bad names, right? Bad names linked to, or bad things linked to our magic or our elemental gifts. Latin, let's see. Latin, okay. Really? Oh, I see. Okay. It's, wait a minute. I want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Latin treatises called witches Anaspex, Agurus, Divinator, Wanatica, Ligator, Mascara. What? Okay. Philatonesia and Striglia. Isn't that interesting? Mascara? I didn't know that. That's the name of a witch. We put it on our eyes. How interesting is that? This also shows to me just how much those in power and position of influence actually know about us over us. You know what I mean? Like, we don't all know this stuff. Anyhow, okay. Dalmatian witches were Christica, crossed ones, a derivative of the Greek Christos. In Holland, a witch was I love this, Wiggiskiller. I've posted a video where they have a whole dance to this holiday, so to speak. A wise sayer. from which came the English wise-scare, wiseacre. Oh, wise-sayer became a wise-acre. The biblical passage that supported centuries of persecution. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Exodus 22:18 used the Hebrew word kaspa, translated witch, although it means seer or diviner. All right, this is a long chapter. I'm not going to read everything out of it, but witches also provided a focus for sexist hatred in male-dominated society, which we've learned because this is where we are today. And some of what the spirit has been said to have contempt for women, like the spirit of the church or the spirit of that, and has been used with scriptures, specifically a lot of Paul's writings, the hatred. And then there is also the opposite of like the hatred of fathers manifested in their ecclesiastical, I can never say this word, ecclesiastical, please help me. I hope you know what I mean. Ecclesiastical. There it is. Thank you. Hopefully somebody over there sent it into my brain. Thank you. Canons and in the doctrines of celibacy and witchcraft destroyed man's respect for women or females and legalized the harming, the extreme torture, and the stories that we've heard about witches. So again, the word once meaning wise, conjurer, collector, even names of now makeup that we put up on our face, makeup. Man, I just get so surprised sometimes. We're there. It's us. It's the great mothers. Females who, when I started in the beginning, I'm talking about our careers, isn't that basically the same thing? Only now it's decided by a group of people, like what careers we can go into, what they are to be named. They can only be specific. You have to go through a certain amount of schooling to be allowed to practice those things, and that schooling is directed under patriarchal education and patriarchal teachings, when it all originated from the great mothers and from us and from those that are called witches. And then we move into witchcraft. And in the early in the Middle Ages, almost anything women did could be described as witchcraft because their daily lives invoked the goddess, with 1,000 small ceremonies as well as the larger ones connected with major holidays. We see that, isn't that, I feel like, isn't that we see this month of October when we go into All Hallows Eve and we see how All Saints Eve, that's really what All Hallows means. It's All Hallows Eve is the night before All Saints Day. I find that I'm still in awe of that because people have said like Halloween is a bad holiday or it invokes badness, but actually it's in veneration of saints, and most of the saints are male, not all of them, but most of them. So that just kind of lets us know a little bit around that interpretation, how we've been told to interpret that and this month, okay? But with also around witchcraft outside of the official religion where, okay, I apologize. Let's go back. Connect with nature. Okay, Martin of Braga said women must be condemned for decorating tables, wearing laurels, taking omens from footsteps, putting fruit and wine on the log of the hearth, and bread in the well. What are these but worship of the devil? Oh my good goddess. Are you kidding me? For women to call upon Minerva, they when they spin, and to observe the day of Venus at weddings, and to call upon her whenever they go out upon the public highway, what is that but worship of the devil? Oh my goodness. And you can see how it slowly became, and how we're seen the way we are, and the word even witchcraft became how it is viewed because of this type of, I call it rhetoric, just made up so that the fear, because fear is one of the greatest tools of influence to really solidify what we've already come to recognize, why females are often in the position they're in. It is around fear, and it is around the kind of shock and awe that females can do all these things, and also oftentimes with ease and practice, right? The practice becomes easy because it's part of nature. It's part of who and how we survive, okay? And then outside of the official religion, where they were kept, women passed down their private family recipes and charms, curses and blessings, telling traditional tales of the past and foretelling the future from omens and signs. And that's that to me kind of, I just wanted to bring this into the picture because I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but hey, let's mention it again. Is that when it comes to our elemental gifts, or what is considered like witchy or witchcrafty, is that connection to the stars, the connection to plants, the connection to the moon. Recently, I was able to witness the rare night blooming of a cactus flower that only happens once a year, and it happens during the full moon. If plants do that, why wouldn't we do that? Like, if we notice that plants only do certain things during the full moon, or only do certain things during the new moon, or are best planted at night, why would we not continue that? Why would we not revere that and note it and then bring it into practice? And then you can see how others would see that and consider it bad, or make it bad. Something, to, I think, unrevere women. Okay, so I'm going to skip because, again, this chapter is extremely long. And I don't want to read all of it. I mean, I want to read all of it, but I'm not going to read all of it. Okay. Let's jump a little bit forward when it comes to witchcraft. But these are all things like holidays, celebrations. A lot of the holidays we have today originated around the Great Mothers and their practices, then became part of the calendar to basically steal from the community, specifically the mothers, and bring profit to not just churches, but those who were considered leaders, and taxes. Because taxes were originally what we had manifested, and then somebody else who was like, I'm in charge, bring me everything you've manifested, and then I'm going to redistribute it to everybody. Where in the communities with the Great Mothers, in the way that we worked, everything was already distributed. Everyone was well, everyone was okay and sustained. And that was something that has been shifted, because there's power in that. There's power in not being dependent on anything other than the planet. And we see that, I think, specifically in government. where government has decided this is what you need and this is what you have to do to get that. Whereas before it would be this is what you need and you could go and get it, or your neighbor had it, or somebody close near you could help you manifest that. Okay, so there is a time where the church distinguished between sorcery, which was generally acceptable, and witchcraft, which was heresy. Von Nettesheim's book of sorcery was published under church auspices, accompanied by a statement of, here's that word again. Oh my gosh. Basically, church approval. Oh. And indeed, his instructor in magic had been a male, John Trithemius, and he was an abbot. What the distinction between sorcery and witchcraft boiled down to was that men could practice magic and women could not. It's, I mean, good griefies. Okay, so here we are in the month where both witches and witchcraft are talked about, celebrated, venerated, and shown. We are at a time now where, and we do have a lot, I've said this before, I'll say it again, we have a lot of tarot readers, we have a lot of seers. We ourselves, even if we may not be on YouTube talking about it, people in their own homes, between using prayer and candles and different types of stones to create forms of manifestation, creation, quote unquote spells. But that's what those are. Spells are other forms of manifestation. And then when we talk about spelling, and then we have our language, you can see how the language has manifested certain spells. So I just wanted to kind of show that. So stars, moon, snakes. Talk a little bit about the calendar. I say that, hopefully I'll remember that. And animals and nature. These are all linked to the Great Mother. This is all females. It all goes back to females. And the original sustenance of that. Okay? Now, the goddess I wanted to mention, because again, with the number 9, I'm always so proud of that. Whenever I see more and more information kind of solidifying the magic of the feminine, and this is where I believe certain words still have the truth in it, and we see this in many stories, and we see this isn't just something I say, this is something that many people say, where you can see how certain stories originated from us and then were slowly changed. Okay, so this goddess, all right, oh no, I'm using it. Okay, where did I write it? I wrote it down so I could try to, okay. Sequitsal, spelled Xochiquuetzal, and her name comes from the language Nahutzal, which is also a ritual language. So it originates in South America. It is a ritual language linked to her name, but also you'll hear some of the elemental links when I describe this, why it is also considered a ritual language. ATL, so that not only in her name, or I'm sorry, not only in their language, but also you will see it oftentimes in goddesses' names and gods' names as well, male gods in their pantheon, or their spiritual pantheon. ATL, Atul, equals water. Metzi, Metzi, Metzli, links to the moon. Tona Tu'u, Tona Tu'u, links to the sun, and that's spelled Tonatiuh. And then Kotal, like we'll hear Quetzalcoatl, right? And like in her name, we have Quetzal at the end of her name, links to serpent. So this goes back to the beginning where I was talking about the serpent and how it's linked to many great mothers and goddess names. It is also linked to language. And in this, where her name comes from, it comes from this language. Okay, this is where we get the name avocado. And in that language, avocado used to mean, or can also mean, well, it's not avocado, it's avocati. And it linked to the male, what it looks like, a fertility symbol. And also in modern, it is considered a fertility symbol because it has one solid seed in the middle and looks like a woman with child, so to speak. Okay, so it has a double fertility link. Now back to the goddess. She is a Mexican Aphrodite, a many-faceted love goddess, moon virgin, fairy queen, and Madonna, a patroness of marriage and sacred harlots, dance, song, spinning, weaving, changes and transformations, magic, and art. Like Syrian Adonis, her son, and yeah, I hate saying this. I'm just going to say her son was a young vegetation god. Her worshippers said Xochitl was the mother of all races of humanity after the primordial flood. So this is another thing. We do see around the world, there are many stories around this primordial flood. Her many children were as mute as animals until her Holy Spirit in the form of a dove descended on the form of the tree of heaven and gave them speech. In this way, all the world's languages were created. In addition to the dove, and we have the story of the black doves, and we know about the dove within the scripture of the Holy Sybil, Bible, Sybil, I call it, okay? So another kind of link there. And another symbol of her shared with the the dove, shared with the ancient Indo-European goddess was her sacred flower, the marigold, perhaps a New World version of the golden thousand-petaled lotus representing the Great Mother in India, or a link to similar to the once-a-year blooming full moon flower has a similar lotus petal. And you look at some of the cacti flowers, and they do have similar lotus-like shapes. So I just wanted to share that. That's not something, I just wanted to share that, okay? Because I'm starting to think most everything came from Central America, South America, and these are why, because of these links. Okay. So, and okay, her paradise was located above the 9 heavens in a very pleasant and delectable place, accompanied and guarded by many people and waited on by other women of the rank of goddesses. So we're seeing another story of the link to like the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden, or the Garden of Paradise, or the beginning of paradise. And this one is a great mother ruled and a great mother created, right? Okay. And then we have, okay. Oh, yeah. And then it says, where there are many delights of fountains, brooks, flower gardens in this paradise. This fairyland was available after death to those who faithfully served the goddess and lived according to her laws. Does that not sound familiar? All right. So, because I'm on this page and I want to read this part about Yahweh because it's in the Women's Missing Secrets, and so we're going to read it together. Yahweh. So I wanted to mention, before we go into Yahweh, I wanted to mention this amazing goddess from South America, the link to nature, the link to flowers, the link to serpents because of the Coatl, or the ATL, in many of the deities' names in South America, and that language, right, where her name actually comes from. All right. So, Yahweh, Hebrew name of God, a vocalization of the Tetragrammaton. It was also rendered Yah, Yahu, Yehovah, Yahi, or Jehovah, and has been related to the name of the Canaanite moon deity Yahweh, possibly a female or androgynous form. A male Yahweh was married to the Canaanite mother goddess Anat at Elephantine. The name of God, pronounced Jeho, Io, or Iwu, was applied to Zeus, Sabathus, as the nocturnal sun, a lord of death under the earth, like Saturn. Jews called him Sabaoth, lord of hosts. His Latin name came from, and I just want to say this again, his Latin name came from the same roots, Upiter, father Iu, that is Jupiter or Jove. Jahi was also a very ancient goddess, appearing in Persian scriptures as the maker and seducer of the first man. Like many other creaturesses, she mated with the primal serpent, and she gave birth. She also gave the menstrual blood of life to Eve. So that's the link to Yahweh. It actually stems from a great mother's name. And it literally says a male Yahweh, meaning we all know. Like, how can you, just saying, everything comes from the mother. Okay, so this video was not quite as long as the last one. That's okay. Good information. And of course, okay, so maybe it will be as long because I want to talk a little bit about the 9-day calendar, because we're having tomorrow, and on the Gregorian calendar is what is considered a day of, it's so frustrating, a day of history that's been mistaught to us, basically, and everybody gets the day off still. So again, that's also why I try to bring in like South American and also North American great mothers, because the original Americas peoples need to be remembered and also revered, because it is their information that we are mostly benefiting from, and her information that we're benefiting from. Then, okay, so for today, as of right now, it is October 12th, a Sunday. And so according to my studies of the 9-day calendar, We are in a Jupiter and Venus energy today, which kind of makes sense. And then tomorrow, which is that guy's day that we have, that, okay, so the Americas were originally named Columbia. This is why you see the District of Columbia. We actually have a South American country named Colombia, and we also have movies that utilize the name Columbia, which is based off of a great mother. And then we have, you look at our old currency, which is literally the great mother's name put together, you'll see females, women on our original coins, and even paper money when it first came out was predominantly females. So we see where the great mother's influence gets changed, rearranged, and retaught to us. So tomorrow, for that holiday, but it's also Indigenous Peoples Day. It's trying to like make up for the hundreds of years of having us revere somebody who may or may not have even existed. Anyhow, tomorrow is Saturn and Mars Day, which I also find very interesting. A lot of our holidays end up with Saturn and Mars falling on them. Okay? So it just, and then we have it being a moon day because it's Monday on the Gregorian calendar. So you have the moon's energy. This is tomorrow. Saturn and Mars. Today we have the sun's energy with Jupiter and Venus. So I can see how the energy is kind of up, protective, warm, and some places people are getting like the weather is changing. That could be significant. But as far as energetically, we're definitely talking about a kind of a balanced energy for today and even tomorrow, because we have the moon balancing the Saturn and Mars energy. But I think Mars and Saturn, I feel and believe, I don't know if those are even correct words. I know, I have this feeling, how about that? That Saturn and Mars are originally feminine energies that have been manipulated. All right, so we're going to pull a goddess card before we go. So thank you all for being here, for listening, for sharing, and subscribing, all that fun stuff. For your patience. I know that there's a lot more I need to be doing on here. Now that things are a little bit more settled, my consistency will pick back up again. But it was a big, huge move and very overwhelming and also pretty rad because I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad you're here. So thanks for being here with me. All right, so I'm just going to do a few shuffling, and then I'm just going to pull a card out somewhat randomly. Psyche. Oh, I love this. So Psyche is the name of a goddess. This is actually where we get psychology, psycho, all that stuff. We get it from her. And it originally means soul. So we talk about like people's mental state of mind when it comes to their psyche. But psyche actually means soul. So once again, something shifted just a little bit. And so knowing just a little bit about psyche, I wonder if that will get taken down. Man. I don't even think my finger was over it. I need to look at these cards before I just put them up. Yeah, maybe I can edit this and blur that out. But anyhow, psyche, third eye, knowing, and intuition. But I'm going to say also soul intuition, soul recognition, soul remembrance, and soul manifestation, because psyche means soul. All right, but we're going to read a little bit out of the book that comes with this deck. All right, great. Let's see if I can Did I get it? There we go. All right. Greek goddess of the soul and the third eye. Psyche was the wife of the god Eros, whose Roman counterpart is Cupid. She used her third eye knowledge to attain her goal of being able to reunite with her lover. Psyche did not start out as a goddess. She was human, a beautiful princess who became a goddess through a difficult path and a broken heart. Also, I just want to clarify, like, no. Why do we always have to suffer and be like, go through abuses and be like this passive, patient, quiet being to become a deity? I'm just saying, no. Okay, but okay. This is her story. This is her story, but all right. And because of jealousy and her own curiosity, she was made to suffer and grow through great fears to regain her place as a goddess and to reunite with her love. Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, let's stop that, okay? Let's stop that in today's world and let's rewrite some of these goddesses' stories, right? Like, oh my goodness. All right. Her story is one of overcoming challenges and leading with intuition, a great passion for achieving one's purpose. She exemplifies a woman's search for authentic personal growth and has the drive to meet all her goals and dreams. The message: stay strong, steadfast, and trust your own inner guidance. Your life's journey may take you through difficult and challenging times, and this is for everybody. I mean, who doesn't? Most people go through this kind of stuff, but you're already a goddess. You're already great. You're already amazing. You're already worth being revered, okay? And then, this may take you through difficult and challenging times, but the experiences, however sad or frightening now, should be seen as the contrast you need to propel you into the life you are meant to live. You can accomplish what your heart is set on. Pay attention to what you feel. That's always important, as that is the way your intuition connects with you. Be open to signs that come your way as messages of clarity and truth. Intuition and third eye knowledge are gifts we all have, and they can be continually developed and enhanced. This can also link to your elementals. Thank you. This can also link to your elementals and to your maybe like your planetary links. Okay. Anyhow, your intuition can be continually developed and enhanced. Oh, that's what I was going to say. And your gifts, like your practices, what you're already aware of. I appreciate that, Nestor Lopez. I appreciate that. Okay, and be inquisitive and proactive in your ascension to be higher to the higher realms of consciousness by devoting time to develop this special gift. So that's kind of what I was mentioning. We, in general, most of our lives are practicing these gifts just because of what we're doing on a regular basis. Just because of what we're doing on a regular basis. Taking care of things. Figuring out what is needed here. What needs to be taken care of over there. And then also continuing that within our jobs and outside of them. All right. So, a little singing bowls before we go. And I look forward to seeing you next week on Female Reverence Sundays. If you have any suggestions of who you might want to hear about or might want to learn, you can put a message in the comments. I will be happy to do a little research there around that and share that. And I look forward to seeing you in my regular non-live videos also. All right. So, thank you. you again for being here. Great reverence to you as a female, as somebody who reveres and supports females. Thank you. All right, until next time. Thank you. Thanks for watching and being here and being a member. I appreciate it.